Previously on Joyful Trails. I got up before the dawn's early light and skedaddled my way to the Commonwealth of Virginia and the High Bridge Trail State Park. I'd been hearing about this amazing historic bridge for a long time, and I wanted to ride my bike across it. So I made Farmville my home base for this trip and spent day one enjoying the High Bridge Trail for 30 miles to Pamplin and back. I decided to save the High Bridge itself for day two and for this video. Stick around for scenes like this and for some interesting details about this iconic piece of Civil War history. So this is Farmville, Virginia. She sits about halfway between Richmond and Roanoke. At various times in her history, brickmaking, coal, timber, and farm produce were all important to the Farmville economy. From 1885 to 1901, mineral water was bottled and sold in Farmville. The annual average temperature is 56 degrees, 37 in January, and a very comfortable 77 in July. Since 2016, there has been a considerable Amish community living in the Farmville area, coming from the Lancaster Amish settlement in Pennsylvania. Farmville is known as the Heart of Virginia. They have an annual Heart of Virginia festival and even a Heart of Virginia community band. They play 4 or 5 concerts sprinkled throughout each year. According to Southern Living magazine, Farmville is a postcard-perfect small town with Main Street charm that captivates visitors. The High Bridge is less than 5 miles east of downtown Farmville on the rail trail, making for a perfect adventure not far at all from downtown Farmville. You can ride your own bike or rent one from the Outdoor Adventure store that sits adjacent to the trail. Famous people from Farmville include Vince Gilligan, an award-winning writer, producer, and director for such popular TV shows as Breaking Bad and The X-Files. And female rapper Robin Yvette Allen, better known as the Lady of Rage. You remember her, right? She did a lot of collabs with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. In 1994, the Lady of Rage released the hit single Afro Puffs, which climbed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot Rap Singles chart. She even gave Farmville a shout-out in the lyrics to her song. Here, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just read just a few of the lyrics from the hit song Afro Puffs for you. I think you'll enjoy this. I rock rough and stuff with my Afro Puffs. Rock on with your bad self. I rock on with my bad self, 'cause it's a must. It's the Lady of Rage still kicking up dust. So, let me loosen up my bra strap. And, let me boost you with my raw rap, 'cause I'ma break it down to the nitty-gritty one time. When it comes to the lyrics, I gets busy with mine. Like cashew, don't you know that I will mash you, for real? That's the deal. I'm straight out of Farmville, VA. So what you gotta say? Huh? Not bad, right? It was a big hit, and I would like to read the rest of the lyrics, but I can't because I would get demonetized. I chose the quirky and contemporary True Hotel by Hilton as a place to sleep. And no, this video is not sponsored by True, but I began the day with a hot breakfast of champions. And I also stuck an apple in my pocket for later. But enough about X-Files, Amish folks, and Afro Puffs. We've got a trail to ride. It's the High Bridge Trail State Park, from Farmville to Burkeville. Let's check it out. So, if you're new, what we do here is review bike trails so that you can decide whether it's worth your time and money and energy to go and visit those trails yourself. And we always try to find a little bit of joy in the journey. If that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks a lot. A special edition of Responding to Comments is coming up, as well as a short visit with a local gentleman who had a very special and interesting story to share. Stick around for that. But first, how about that bridge, huh? It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a Virginia historic landmark as the location of two Civil War battles during what is known as Lee's Retreat, just days before his surrender at Appomattox. All in all, the trail is a total of about 31 or 32 miles, and it's a great trail, but the majestic High Bridge is the crown jewel. It's 2,422 feet long, about half a mile, and rises 125 feet above the Appomattox River. It is the longest pedestrian bridge in Virginia and offers spectacular views as far as the eye can see. High Bridge was built in 1853 as part of the South Side Railroad that ran from Lynchburg to Petersburg. Well, the High Bridge was heavily damaged during the final days of the Civil War. After the battle at nearby Sailor's Creek, the last major engagement of the war, Confederate General Robert E. Lee retreated directly through the town of Farmville, and the Confederate Army crossed and then attempted to burn High Bridge. The Union forces saved the bridge and continued their pursuit of Lee's army towards Appomattox Courthouse, where General Lee surrendered a few days later to General Ulysses S. Grant. The history here is so thick, it just kind of hangs in the air. This may sound a little melodramatic, but there's a heaviness as you cross this bridge and reflect on all that happened here roughly 160 years ago. There are placards with historical details that you can read and absorb. After the war, Confederate General William Billy Mahone rebuilt the bridge and the South Side Railroad. It eventually became part of the Norfolk Southern Railway system. When maintenance costs became too high, the Farmville rail service was downgraded and eventually abandoned. As I was searching for information prepping for this video, I ran across a website that said, "Gone are the steam trains and Civil War armies. Now it's for hikers, bikers, and history buffs to enjoy." While shooting video on the bridge, I met a kind gentleman who shared a great story with me. You know, you meet the nicest people on bike trails. Have I ever told you that? His name was Donnie. Donnie has lived in the area pretty much all of his life, and he remembers back when trains traveled across that bridge. Well, guess who else traveled across that bridge? Donnie and his buddies. Check this out.
A bunch of us teenagers would come down, and we would get down here because the train at the time was running from across the tracks, and a bunch of us would get down here, and we would be like, well, can we make it across the tracks before a train comes? And you know how far it is here, you know, and we knew that if a train came, if we was halfway across, nothing we could do would try to run to one of these lookouts right here, because it years ago, it's where they put the 55-gallon drums of water. So that's the only place we could do, was to get off right there and just stand there while the train went by. But that was one of my memories from back when I was a teenager. It's so much has changed over the years. They put the trail in and moved the tracks and put the trail in, and it's great. I try to come down 4 or 5 times a week and walk a couple of miles down here, you know. But it just brings back so many good memories from years ago, coming down fishing up under the train trestles right here and stuff, you know. So it's awesome. It's awesome.
I tell you what, it's a wonder teenage boys ever live to see their 20s. Am I right? I can just picture Donnie and his friends basically trying to outrun a train up on that bridge. What a story. Now, if you're wondering how I was able to get video from down below the bridge, well, just beyond the southeastern end of the bridge is Camp Paradise, some Civil War era earthworks with a replica cannon. This place was once occupied by Confederate soldiers from Louisiana, and the story is told that the soldiers felt they were treated so well by local people that they began to refer to this place as Camp Paradise. On both sides of the High Bridge Trail, there are smaller trails leading you down to the base of the High Bridge. One of them goes right through Camp Paradise. Now, be forewarned that the trip down to the base of the bridge is quite treacherous. You probably won't be able to remain on your bike unless you're on some kind of really rugged mountain bike or something. There's lots of tree roots and rocks, and the grade is pretty steep in places. But it is so worth it. Stick around because our exclusive Joyful Trails star rating is coming up at the end of the video, as well as my visit to something called the Fishin Pig. You don't want to miss that. But first, let's talk just a little bit about this trail. It was designated a National Recreation Trail in 2013, but for details on the trail's surface, parking, signage, restrooms, etc., etc., check out our Part 1 video. It covers all of that stuff. I'll put a card up above and a link in the description box below, and you can check out that video at your convenience. But I do want to mention this snazzy brand new depot-style building that is not far from the High Bridge, and it's going to serve as a visitor center and gift shop. The sign said that it was opening in late 2024. If it had been open when I was there, I totally would have bought some merch. Oh well, I'll just have to go back. But I kept pedaling, and eventually I ended up in a place called Rice, Virginia. This is Rice, an unincorporated community that was known as Rice's Depot during the Civil War era. The most recent head count was 2,256. The cost of living in Rice is said to be about 5% lower than the U.S. average. Rice was a stop on the South Side Railroad back in the day. The Battle of Rice's Station was a minor engagement in the Appomattox campaign of the Civil War. Today, Rice offers a large parking lot for easy access to the High Bridge Trail State Park. I kept going, and then I stopped along the way and took a bite out of a Big Apple. Thanks, True Hotel by Hilton. And then I got back on the trail. Eventually, I came to this sign signifying the end of the trail. I looked up and saw a simple picnic table at a dead end. So the trail does not go all the way to Burkeville. It stops just short of Burkeville, so I will not be able to show you scenes from Burkeville because the High Bridge Trail ends near Burkeville, but not in Burkeville. It's like I'm trying to see how many times I can work Burkeville into a paragraph. Our star rating and my visit to the Fishin Pig are still yet to come, but first, another installment of Responding to Comments.
Responding to Comments.
If you've ever had to go potty on a bike trail and weren't able to, you know just how frustrating and painful that can be. Well, as it turns out, a faithful viewer to Joyful Trails that we will call Sugar Patch Maker sends the following story via the comment section. She says, "You know, us girls can't just go tinkle behind a tree like guys can." I really did look around to make sure no one was coming down the long stretch of trail that I had seen no one on for at least 30 minutes before getting off my bike and stepping off trail behind some trees to let everything down and go. As I was getting started, I hear the sound of a woman saying, "Someone left their bike here." And a male replies, "I wonder if they're okay." You never seen a girl hike up her drawers so fast in her life and scramble out of the trees with a roll of toilet paper in her hands. TP is a must for girls on long trails with no facilities. I didn't know that. Okay, I learned something. I came face to face with the two riders who looked at me and my roll of toilet paper in hand, then looked at each other and laughed. Then the guy looked at me and said, "Well, I guess you're okay. I was about to come in looking for you." Close call. I love that story.
This has been Responding to Comments.
So, before my day was done, I decided to grab dinner at the Fishin Pig, ladies and gentlemen. It's a place that specializes in barbecue and catfish. Two great tastes that taste great together. A good time was had by all, and I can highly recommend the Fishin Pig in Farmville, Virginia. So, the moment of truth has arrived. What do we think about this trail? Well, as I mentioned in part 1 of our High Bridge review, the non-High Bridge part of the trail is very pleasant and picturesque. It's accessible. It's beautiful. The keepers of this trail really stuck the landing with signage and rest stops, etc. But who am I kidding? The unmitigated, indisputable star of this show is the High Bridge itself, that majestic, iconic, historic bridge. 5 stars for the High Bridge Trail in Linear State Park in Central Virginia. But wait, there's more, as they used to say in those infomercials. This is only the second time I've done this, but I'm going to go beyond a 5-star rating and designate the High Bridge Trail as a destination trail. That means it's the kind of trail where you just might want to center a trip around it, or make it the focal point of a weekend, or even build a vacation around it. It really is that special.